I would also like to welcome Ms. Barbara Weirman, Advisor for Migration and Development from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, to the dais. I would now like to request the presence of Mr. Jamie McGoldrick, the United Nations Resident Coordinator to Nepal, on the dais. I have great pleasure in welcoming Her Excellency Ms. Renzi Tirink, Ambassador of the European Union Delegation to Nepal. A big round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to introduce to you Mr. Ramesh Kumar Adhikari, Under Secretary representing the Ministry of Federal Affairs and Local Development. Last but not the least, please welcome Ms. Cecile Ryland, Program Manager of the JMDI representing UNDP Brussels. Before we move ahead with the program, I would now like to call upon the Acting Secretary of the Ministry of Labour and Employment, Mr. Buddhi Bahadur Kharga, to please kindly light the panels and formally inaugurate the launching program.
Welcoming you at the opening and the launch of the Joint Migration Development Initiative. Quickly, a few facts and data. This is a program founded by the European Union, the European Commission and the Swiss Development Cooperation with a total amount of 9.5 million. The program is led by the UNDP in partnership with IOM, the UNHCR. My final note and my hope and expectation is really that we will be able to pass through this project important tools and resources to the migrants themselves, to empower them, ultimately also to, and this is the link with the development, really to better the condition of living of the communities where they come from. Migration should never be seen as a snapshot. There is always a before and an after. We need to capture this dynamicity. Unfortunately, we are not still there. I believe that the program that we are starting today will help us all, and in particular the local administration, to feel and make feel migrants, both the communities, but also what we call the diaspora, still belonging, still being the children of Nepal. Let me close with a final word of thanks to the administrator and the local authorities that, despite their really overwhelming workload, decided and were kind enough to be with us today. We hope we won't fail you. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad.
I now request Mr. Jamie McGoldrick, United Nations Resident Coordinator to Nepal, to please kindly give his remarks.
Acting Secretary, Minister of Labour, Mr. Khadka, government colleagues, heads of agencies, ambassadors, colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, namaste. Nepal will have the opportunity to learn from the first phase of this, the 2008-2012 that was mentioned, and now that they've come on board as part of the second phase, hopefully they can gather some of the best practices and lessons learned from that first phase and the other countries involved. And hopefully the feedback from this initiative will can impress upon those drawing up the post-2015 agenda the great value of leveraging migration to generate, I think, economic, social and environmental progress in any country. The people in Nepal want development, and I think the UN's sole job here is to make sure that happens and support that in the way we can. And I think we've been trying to address through the My World survey to ask the people of Nepal, especially young people, what kind of world are you happening here? And that's why the UN family will continue to support those services and support to this country. So I'd like just to close and thank the EU, the SDC and the Government of Nepal for taking the interest in this programme, and obviously to IOM for being the anchor agency here in the UN family.
Now, please have the remarks from Ms. Barbara Weirman, Advisor for Migration and Development from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation.
Switzerland was an immigration country until the early 20th century, but is now a remittance sending country. According to the World Bank, Switzerland has ranked third as a source country for remittances in 2009 and is still among the top 10. In 2009, we ranked third after the US and Saudi Arabia. With these efforts, SDC, like many others in Nepal, is in a learning process as to how best to harness the benefits of migration for development. This is why Switzerland co-funds the JMDI. With its support to innovative project ideas, JMDI adds to the growing body of knowledge as to how migrants and governments can be encouraged to see migration as a positive contribution to poverty reduction and local development. We look forward to learn from the good practices that Oxfam and PNCC, in collaboration with local governments, will develop. We will also greatly benefit from the rich diversity of initiatives in the other 7 countries where JMDI is active, and from the knowledge tool that JMDI will provide. JMDI is an important contributor to the knowledge base that is presently in the process of being built about migration and development. I would like to close by thanking the Government of Nepal, the EU, the UNDP and anchor agency IOM, as well, and I wish the grantees PNCC and Oxfam a very good start of their project.
Now may I please request Her Excellency Ms. Renzi Tering, Ambassador of the European Union Delegation to Nepal, to kindly say a few words.
Migration and mobility can also foster more foreign direct investment and trade links, and especially bearing in mind the role of the diaspora communities. And again, this is very much relevant for Nepal, which is dependent on the remittances of the migrants communities, contributing 1/4 to its GDP. Distinguished guests, strengthened partnerships and cooperation on migration are necessary to maximize the positive and minimize the negative consequences of migration. Migration is still all too often addressed in silos. Not only does migration require the cooperation of national governments, local authorities, civil society and migrants associations, the private sector and the international community. It also requires a multi-sector approach which addresses, amongst others, the human, social and labor rights of migrants, their psychosocial well-being, and the development effects as well as potential economic gains associated with migration. Therefore, much remains to be done to ensure that migration and development are no longer treated in different policy realms. Structured forms of intervention, such as the ones we are launching here today, and which link global, regional, national and local levels, have the potential to ensure that migration and development are not anymore treated in silos. The EU is very keen to see the success of the implementation of this joint initiative here in Nepal, which demonstrates how we can all work together to capitalize on the energy of different actors to deliver local solutions to global challenges. These efforts cannot be sustained without the critically needed engagement of all our partners, and I would like to once again thank all of you here today for your participations in today's events. Thank you and namaste.
I now call upon Mr. Ramesh Kumar Adhikari, Under-Secretary from the Ministry of Federal Affairs and Local Development, for his remarks.
Namaste. It is good for us that Nepal is one of the 8 countries who got the JMDI project. I, on behalf of my ministry, the Ministry of Federal Affairs and Local Development, and my own self, would like to thank to the international management team for selecting our country as the target. I understand Ms. Cecile Ryland, JMDI Project Manager, UNDP. You represent here the JMDI Brussels, and would like to request you to please accept our appreciation and thanks for choosing our country, and convey the same with equitable respect to the rest team members. It is true and known to all that Nepal is giving high number of youth workforce to the global labor market and receiving significant volume of remittance. About 1,300 labor leaves country daily in search of better job opportunities and earnings. The money they remit back home has a significant impact on reducing poverty in rural Nepal. With this huge labor of migration and the influx of remittance, its proper management is crucial.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mahendra Pandey is the chairperson of the Pravasi Nepali Coordination Committee, and Mr. Mahendra Mahanto is the program manager of Sustainable Livelihoods and Food Security Program at Oxfam, Nepal. I now hand over the floor to Ms. Reliant.
And also basically has an impact when it comes to providing public services and also deciding on how to deal with it in an economic manner. And quite often local authorities, because they are not the one that have a direct responsibility for dealing with migration, are not so well equipped in terms of fiscal resources. And that's really one of the major issues that has to be tackled. And that's particularly important at this point in time, whereby we are just trying to design what's going to be the next development agenda after 2015, because as you know, the current MDGs will come to an end, and we're right now, as a development community, trying to form and shape what the next development agenda will be. And one of the very important aspects that is being discussed at the moment is to which extent migration could be integrated in that new agenda. And I'd like to leave the floor now to the organizations that we have selected in Nepal to present the projects that they will be running in the 2 years to come. Thank you very much to all.
We have 3 program pillars. We call it Disaster Risk Reduction and Humanitarian Program, Sustainable Livelihood and Food Security Program, Governance and Women Empowerment Program. And our program includes Sustainable Livelihood and Food Security Programs, which is being implemented in 6 districts of Mid, Western and Far Western region. The main objective of this program is to improve and secure access to food, public health services, and sustainable livelihoods for vulnerable and socially excluded peoples in the region.
Pravasi Nepali Coordination Committee is established in 2009 and established as a non-profit making organization by the returnee Nepali migrant worker. Objective: existing structure and actor of migration and development are reinforced, and their actions and the scale of migrant communities and the local government structures are linked and coordinated. Migrant communities contribute to the local development. And also major highlights, a district migration government's coordination committee is called DMGCC, and also scaling of the migrant resource center in the 4 districts, and also micro-entrepreneur programs.
I now request the chairperson of the program, Mr. Buddhi Bahadur Kharga, Acting Secretary of the Ministry of Labour and Employment, to kindly give the closing remarks.
The government of Nepal has recognized the significant contribution of the Nepalese migrant workers for the economic development of the country. It's my pleasure to share in this occasion that the ministry is in the final process for finalizing a 5-year national action plan to implement the Foreign Employment Policy 2012. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, due to inadequate employment opportunity at home, labor migration has become a primary source of employment for Nepalese labor force. Every day, around 1,500 to 1,800 Nepalese labor forces fly to overseas for employment opportunities. According to a report published by the World Bank, Nepal is the third among the countries receiving the highest proportion of remittance in terms of GDP, with the country receiving remittance worth 25% of GDP in 2012. Commitment to the principles of migrants' rights and human development, and by looking forward to receiving goodwill, support and assistance from different stakeholders and all wishes. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning in the launching ceremony of the Joint Migration and Development Initiative. I now invite you all to proceed for high tea. Thank you very much.